This lesson is on personal growth and behaviors, personal code of conduct.
Values are the driving force behind an action. When you take an action or make a decision, it is usually based on what you believe to be right. Your decisions are motivated by your values. Values guide you to have strong feelings of right versus wrong, ethical versus unethical, and of something being important for personal gain versus majority benefit.
This lesson's essential question: how can I apply my values and ethics to develop a personal code of conduct? I would like you to think about this as we go through this lesson.
I'd like you to think about what is important to you. Values are the ideas and things that are important to you. Values come from your beliefs or attitudes. They influence your behavior because you use them to decide between alternatives. You may, for instance, place value on such things as truth, money, friendship, justice, or selflessness. There's no right or wrong answer to this question, but I'd like you to ask yourself which of the following best describes you. Is it, I know exactly what is important to me? Sometimes I struggle to balance two or more things that are important to me, or I usually don't make a fuss about what's important or not.
We will prepare for this lesson by discussing the key questions of the student learning plan. What will you accomplish in this lesson? Develop a personal code of conduct. Why is this lesson important? Values are the driving force behind an action. When you take an action or make a decision, it is usually based on what you believe to be right. Your decisions are motivated by your values. Values guide you to having strong feelings versus right and wrong, ethical versus unethical, and of something being important for personal gain versus majority benefit. In this lesson, you'll learn about making ethical decisions. You'll also develop a code of conduct to live by.
Our learning objectives describe how values affect behavior, identify the 7 values of the U.S. Army, describe the basic rules of ethics, compare cultural, universal, and non-universal norms, explain the process for making ethical decisions, describe the benefit of a personal code of conduct, describe ways to form good habits. Define keywords, conscience, an internal sense of what is right and what is wrong, cultural norms, a group of acceptable behaviors within a society or culture, ethics, guides we use to do the right thing, golden rule, an ethical guideline that states that you should treat others the way you want others to treat you, habits, behaviors that repeat frequently, often without thinking, integrity, the characteristic of having high moral values and behavior, morals, having to do with the principles of what is right and what is wrong, non-universal norms, behaviors that are acceptable to small groups of people, usually behaviors about group obligations, religious practices, and so on, priorities, the things or actions that are most important to you, universal norms, behaviors that are acceptable everywhere, and values, ideas, beliefs, or attitudes about what is important. Think about the values that are important in JRTC. Everyone has a set of values. In a way, they are like the lenses and glasses. They color the way you think about the things in the world. For example, if you value nature and wilderness, you may think cities are ugly. Someone with a different set of values will view cities as exciting, vibrant places where important things happen. Your values can influence your priorities. Because they are the basis for beliefs and attitudes, you may become emotional regarding certain issues. These values begin early in life and develop throughout your adulthood. You develop, process, evaluate, and prioritize beliefs or values in an order of importance. Your values help guide your daily existence in society. Strong values are what you put first, what you will defend most, and what you want to give up least.
Values are core beliefs that guide and motivate your attitude about the worth of people, concepts, and things, and will influence the choices you make, the relationships you build, and the actions you will take. The stronger your values, the more committed you will be to defending them. There are 7 values that you should develop in yourself in order to become a successful leader. Loyalty. Bear true faith and allegiance to the U.S. Constitution, the Army, your unit, and other soldiers. Duty. Fulfill your obligations. Respect. Treat people as they should be treated. Selfless service. Put the welfare of the nation, the Army, and subordinates before your own. Honor. Live up to all Army values. Integrity. Do what's right, legally and morally. Personal courage. Face fear, danger, or adversity, physical or moral.
What three things must you do to demonstrate the Army value of duty? Is it show up early to events, stay busy during activities, and leave only after the boss is gone? Is it respect the Constitution, report lawbreakers, and be faithful to your team? Is it see dignity in all people, listen well, and perform at your potential? Or is it carry out the requirements of your job, meet professional standards, and fulfill your legal, moral, and civic obligations? The answer is carry out all requirements of your job, meet professional standards, and fulfill your legal, moral, and civic obligations. Personal blank comes in two forms, physical and moral. Is it duty, integrity, loyalty, or courage? The correct answer is courage. Personal courage comes in two forms, physical and moral. Selfless service means blank. Is it your priorities are service to your community or the nation? You are never selfish? You can create a climate of fairness? You should show good moral judgment. The answer is your priorities are service to your community or the nation. Integrity is blank. Is it the characteristic of having high moral values and behavior? Ordering your obligations and commitments? The total of your organizational, civic, and moral obligations? The internal sense of right and wrong? The answer is the characteristic of having high moral values and behavior. I'd like you to think about how actions reflect values. Think about how you know right from wrong. It takes special courage to support unpopular decisions and make it difficult for others to do what's wrong. Moral courage relies on a conscience. Conscience is the awareness of a desire to act properly and the awareness of guilt when improper acts are committed or intended. Our conscience is not an automatic feeling or emotion. It's the product of knowledge and intelligence that allows us to judge right from wrong. Your conscience develops and matures over time with experience. A sense of justice. A sense of justice ensures fairness. As leaders, our sense of justice must prompt us to protect the rights of every individual. We must be aware of the need of fair distribution of benefits and burdens to all. A sense of justice is developed from learning experiences over time. Just as your conscience goes through changes, your sense of justice will also mature over time. A personal code of conduct. This is the code of behavior you live by. Moral courage is as important as physical courage. If you believe you are right after serious and thoughtful judgment, hold your position. You owe it to yourself, your team, and your organization. Through loyalty to the 7 Army values, you can execute good leadership. What comes to mind when you hear the word ethics? Are your first thoughts of laws, judges, and criminals? On the other hand, do you think of humane treatment of animals or equal treatment for all humankind? How about letting someone copy your homework or telling your best friend the latest gossip? All of these areas involve decisions based on ethics. Most of our moral beliefs are actually habits we learned as children. Doing the right thing brought praise, or at least no negative response. For example, when we walked on the rug with muddy shoes, our parents scolded us. With repetition, we learned to take off our shoes, or at least wipe them off before entering the house. We also learned that these types of behaviors are guidelines we follow to do the right thing. The study of ethics helps us decide whether something we may do, say, choose, or think is right or wrong. Values are the principles that guide us. Ethics are the guidelines for our conduct. Ethics are broad guidelines adopted by society over time. For example, in our society, some ethical standards include telling the truth, keeping promises, respecting people and property. While rules of conduct may change through the years to keep pace with changes in society, the fundamentals of ethics remain constant. In general, philosophers agree that these four basic rules of ethics are enduring and universal. 1. Do good, avoid evil. 2. Be fair and unbiased, which means free from favoritism. 3. Respect the dignity of all people. Treat others the way you want to be treated. 4. Be responsible for your thoughts and conduct. These guidelines seem simple, but they can actually raise many questions. For example, people may have different ideas about good and evil, or what it means to respect human dignity. Here's an example. Should murderers be executed? Is it ethical to kill someone who's a murderer? Individuals and nations have different answers to this question. Some nations have outlawed the death penalty. Others use the death penalty for crimes lesser than murder. What do you think? Next question. Blank are guidelines we use to do the right thing. Is it ethics, moral habits, integrity standard, or consciences? The answer is, of course, ethics. Ethics are guidelines we use to do the right thing. While individuals have different ideas about what is ethical or unethical, a society as a whole will have a general agreement about what is acceptable conduct. These agreements are known as norms. The three types of norms are cultural norms, universal norms, and non-universal norms. Cultural norms are based on our culture. The norm, what is considered acceptable conduct, in one culture may be considered wrong in another culture. Women in many Middle Eastern countries, for example, are required to cover their arms, legs, and face in public. Most Americans have a very different view of what women are allowed to wear in public. We rarely question our norms or even talk about them. From early childhood, we are expected to dress, eat, sleep, walk, and talk a certain way. The same is true of all people in all different cultures all over the world. Universal norms are the normal belief of people in most cultures. Anthropologists have found that lying, stealing, and violating a group's social codes or committing murder is almost always condemned by people everywhere. Another example of a universal norm is how communication is conducted between people. People of a higher rank or position of importance are spoken to in a more respectful manner than someone who is lower authority or position. We tend to address our classmates or coworkers by their first names. However, citizens of the country commonly address their president or prime minister as Mr. or Miss President or Mr. or Miss Prime Minister. They would not address someone of a higher rank or authority by their first name. Another example is that students should not call their teacher by their first name. A teacher or professor is considered an authority in the classroom and should only be addressed by Mr., Miss, or Ms., or Professor. Without rules or norms, institutions would crumble. Keeping promises is a good example. We're all expected to do what we have said we will do. Most people keep their promises. If they don't, society would fall into disorder. As citizens, we have an obligation to honor constitutional justice, civil laws, and the moral norms of our communities. Non-universal norms include values such as duties specific to one's religion, for example, worshiping, fasting, observing holy days and dress codes, and refraining from various activities. Members of professional sports teams have norms about practice, talking to the press, and teamwork. Your small group of friends may even have non-universal norms. It's important to remember that conflicts can result when individuals try to impose their personal or non-universal norms on others. Many philosophers have noted that all the major religions in the world teach some version of the Golden Rule. Treat others as you want others to treat you. Why do you think this ethic crosses so many different cultures? Ethics and morals present many tough questions. For instance, if acting according to a cultural norm harms someone, is this ethical? Is someone who does what is right simply out of fear of getting caught a moral person? Does the end result of a decision justify the means? Does the need to end a war quickly, for example, justify dropping an atomic bomb? We all must decide on the answers to such questions for ourselves. Nevertheless, how do we find the answers to questions that may pose a moral dilemma? If you go through these 4 steps in a systematic process, it will help you make the right ethical and moral decisions. 1. Consider all the facts, making sure to verify your information. 2. Determine the moral value or rules that apply to the situation. 3. Always make decisions and act in light of your knowledge of the values and the facts in a way that respects the life and well-being of all people. 4. Choose the lesser of 2 evils, or at least the least of many. When no better solution can be found, ask, which of the possible choices I have will result in the greatest good for the greatest number of people? Blank are the behaviors that are acceptable to small groups of people, usually behaviors about group obligations, religious practices, and so on. Is it cultural norms, non-universal norms, universal norms, or regional norms? The answer is non-universal norms are behaviors that are acceptable to small groups of people, usually behaviors about group obligations, religious practices, and so on. Blank are behaviors that are acceptable everywhere. Is it cultural norms, non-universal norms, universal norms, or regional norms? The answer is universal norms. Cultural norms are blank. Is it acceptable behaviors within a society or culture, normal activities for a given culture, the normal style of art, music, and theater in a culture, or acceptable behaviors within an organization? The answer is acceptable behaviors within a society or culture. True or false? Cultural norms can be stronger than universal norms. True or false? The answer is true. Cultural norms can be stronger than universal norms. The golden rule states that blank. Is it, you should be honest and kind at all times? You should treat others the way you want to be treated. You should treat others the way they treat you. Or, you should never lie, steal, or harm another person. The correct answer is, you should treat others the way you want to be treated. The golden rule is an example of one of the rules of ethics. Which one? Is it, do good, avoid evil, be unfair and unbiased, respect the dignity for all people, be responsible for your thoughts and conduct? The answer is, respect the dignity for all people.
Next, we're going to complete exercise 2, Norms, Ethics, and Decisions. In our cadet portfolio from the dashboard, we're going to select Core Curriculum. We're going to scroll down to Personal Growth and Behaviors, Personal Code of Conduct. And then we're going to select Exercise 2, Norms, Ethics, and Decisions. Again, for this, we're going to read each of the following scenarios below, identify the norms and values involved in making decisions, decide on an action. So again, we're going to read 1, and then we're going to place what our actions would be in this block right here, 2, 3, and 4. Again, placing what our actions would be in this block. Once we have done this, mark as complete, scroll back up to the top, and select Save.
Think about your values and how you want to honor them with your conduct. A personal code of conduct is a way to deal with simple and complex ethical issues in your daily life. Your code of conduct is not a long list of what you believe. Instead, it's a list of reminders that cause you to practice acceptable behavior. State the rules positively, as if they were goals that mean a great deal to you. The list should contain I will items. They can be as simple as I will do my best to be punctual and cause no one to wait for me, or I will keep my room neat and orderly. Then we should put these rules or goals into our daily practice. Living right, that is, by a code of good conduct, has its own reward. Among those rewards are having fewer occasions to apologize, possessing greater self-esteem, earning the respect of others, increasing moral courage, less frustration about making ethical decisions. In short, a personal code of conduct will help you live a more fully human life. Think about how you would develop your own personal code of conduct.
Next, we're going to complete exercise 3, personal code of conduct. From the dashboard of our cadet portfolio, we're going to select core curriculum. We're going to scroll down to personal growth and behavior, personal code of conduct. And then we're going to select exercise 3, personal code of conduct. Now you notice it says directions. Consider your values and how they relate to your personal code of conduct. List your values, personal code of conduct, and what you need to work on, and what habits you need to change in the columns below. So, my related values. I value, and these are already provided for you. I value education, doing my best. Personal code of conduct. I will. That's your I will statement. I will always do. What will you always do? Fill that in. I need to work on. What do you need to work on? And then I need to change these habits. For the first two, you're just going to fill it in. For the last several, you're going to put what you value, what you will do based on that value. I will always do. I need to work on, and I need to change these habits. So you're going to pick your own values for these last three. Once you've filled all that in, you're going to mark as complete, scroll up to the top, and select Save.
The benefits of living by an ethical personal code of conduct include blank. Is it sleeping better at night, less frustration about making moral decisions, apologizing more often, or not having to change your mind? The answer is less frustration about making moral decisions. Deciding on a code of conduct is usually a first step towards ethical behavior. In most cases, living by your code of ethics will take time and may require you to change some behaviors. Many of our behaviors are really habits. As we repeat certain behaviors and thoughts, our nervous system grows in the ways we have used it, until we have a ready-made response for each sort of impression. We are bundles of habits. Once you understand that habits are easy to make and hard to break, you can start to pay more attention to your actions. Dr. William James, a physician and psychologist, offers 3 practical steps for breaking bad habits and forming good ones. To form a new habit or get rid of an old one, begin the change in behavior as strongly as possible. For example, you might make a public pledge. Tell everyone you know what you are going to do. This is a way of holding yourself responsible to your goals and to have others remind you of those goals. Consider the story of a man who advertised in his hometown newspaper a large reward for anyone after that date should see him smoke a cigarette. The thought of having to pay the reward was a strong reason for him to stay away from cigarettes. Never stop a new habit before it is firmly fixed in your life. Continuing to do the new behavior over and over helps make it a habit for life. Take every chance you get to act on the change. The effect of practicing a new behavior communicates the new set of actions to the brain. Action, not simply the decision to change, builds the tendency to act in the new way you wish to behave. Behaviors we repeat frequently, often without thinking, are blank. Is it our personal code of conduct, part of our conscience, habits, or an obsession? The answer is, of course, habits. Next question. Blank is an internal sense of what is right and what is wrong. Is it an ethic, a moral, integrity, or conscience? Conscience is an internal sense of what is right and what is wrong. Morals are blank. Is it a set of guidelines for how to conduct ourselves? Principles of what is right and what is wrong? Universally accepted behaviors? Or the internal sense of right and wrong? Morals are principles of what is right and what is wrong. Priorities are blank. Is it the things or actions that are most important to you? Standards of moral behavior? Principles about what you believe? or the first 5 items on any list. Priorities are the things or actions that are most important to you. Ideas, belief, or attitudes about what is important are blank. Is it ethics, your conscience, norms, or values? It is values.
Next, we're going to complete the performance assessment task for the personal code of conduct. In our cadet portfolio from the dashboard, we're going to select core curriculum. We're going to scroll down to personal growth and behavior, personal code of conduct, and we're going to select the performance assessment task. To complete this performance assessment task, you're basically going to complete exercise 3, which you've already done, and then you're going to describe your personal code of conduct, how you currently rate on demonstrating that conduct, and a plan for improving your conduct as needed. Again, you can either put that as a Google Doc, you can create a Word document and attach it here, or you can simply type it in here in the notes. Once you have completed that, met, make sure that you put the date in this block, mark as complete, scroll back up to the top, and select Save.
This brings us back to our essential question: how can I apply my values and ethics to develop a personal code of conduct? Ethical behavior has been a key topic throughout history. Every culture has agreed that some actions are intolerable and some honorable. Consider the sources of guidance that are available to you. From the world's greatest thinkers and leaders, our civilization and our nation's enduring values, and from the use of techniques in this lesson, you will develop your own system of responsible conduct in any situation. Have a great week.